Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. How you doing? It's another show, man. So, my name is Devon Morris. Welcome to the Unfiltered Show where we talk about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, all those kind of things. This is where we answer your questions, people. So, come join us, sit down, grab you something nice to drink, and go ahead and join us for the day. If you don't have a clue about what today's topic is, well, let me tell you what today's topic is, right? Today, the topic is going to be about something really simple, and it's called preparing for a Scrum Master interview. That's what we are talking about today. I'm going to give you some tips. I think there's tons of places you can ask, you can find questions, right? Because I have some stuff on Bearded Eagle's website where we throw some questions out there, helping you prepare for an interview. But the idea is today we're talking about preparing for that Scrum Master interview. Now, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, but here's the deal. First and foremost, how does this show work? Well, the show is designed to answer your questions. For the first, I say 20 to 25 minutes, so about somewhere between 8:20, 8:20, 8:30, we'll go through this topic, right? And then after that, I will open the floors for you to ask any questions that you have. It'd be great for you to ask questions about interviewing, right? Since that's the topic, and I'll give you as much information as I can, right? So, no, you're welcome to ask questions. Now, when you ask questions, you can do it by phoning in. You can come on the show live, or you can just type them in the comment section, right? We got comments on LinkedIn. We got comments on YouTube. We're live on both platforms, as we usually are. So, this is a good thing. First and foremost, I ask everybody, all you people that's normally here, do me a favor. Drop in the comments. Say hi. Just go ahead and say hi. Whether you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, drop me a nice little hi. Say something. Give me a shout out real quick, right? So I can make sure that I, connect with you. See that you're there, right? What's been going on with you? For me, this has been an amazing week. As you can see, I got stuff I'm working on, right? So I always use Scrum in everything that I do. And here's some examples of me doing work, right? This was a dump of my brain from some stuff that I got to do. That's real stuff, right? Real client stuff, right? And so I had to really jump out there, and that's how I kind of work. Love it when I got a wall to deal with. Love it when I got, gangs, the gangs of stickies, right? So that I get my ideas out. I can do this all electronically, but I just like the tactile feel of taking this item and, just kind of put it on a wall. You feel me? That's just me, right? And so I'm just really, really enjoying doing that this week, right? Just getting at some real things. And by doing stuff like this, putting them in like affinity groups, I get to see patterns. So I'm just like, I'm loving it. I really am loving it. So I'm having a good time, to be honest with you, right? Started this whole process this weekend. So I'm feeling good, right? I really am. Outside of that, everything else is good. Just about to be super busy. There are 2 weeks where I'm going to be away from you, and I'm going to have some videos drop on the day that it's supposed to be happening. So I think October 2nd and October 9th, I won't be in a place where I can actually get on. So I'm going to make sure that we got a video that's going to show up. Don't know what the topic is going to be, but I'll make sure that happens. Do me a favor. There's going to be some people that's here new. This is how we do the show all the time. If you are brand new here, do me a favor. Like the show, right? Just go ahead and like the show. right? We get his content. It's free. It don't take you nothing but a little bit of time to like the show. Also, subscribe to the show, right? It's free for you to subscribe. You subscribing means that boosts our numbers. That helps with the videos, that helps with everything, right? So let me know that you're liking the content. And then make sure you click that notification button, right? Because when I'm gone for those 2 weeks, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop some videos at the same time. So you get the notification. I'm going to make sure it's going to be a dope video, a couple dope videos. So that being said, I'm going to say hi to everybody in a moment. I'm kind of ready to start talking about the topic at hand because the topic is what I would consider a really important topic. It is for me, and I hope it is for you, and that is preparing for a Scrum Master interview, right? Preparing for a Scrum Master interview, right? And this is one of those things where I've been talking to you in the past few weeks about finding opportunities, right? And then gaining experience as a Scrum Master. Those have been topics that we've talked about. The first thing that I want to talk to you about on this topic of you preparing for an interview, right? And I hate to say this, but I have to. I said it the past few weeks with no problem. But the very first thing that I must say to you is you have to understand the role. Okay? It's just one of those things where I don't know why I would hire you if you don't understand the basics, right? I mean, the truth of the matter, let me give you a perfect example so you understand, right? I have hired people in the Bearded Eagle where I have been on site with them as a client, and I will literally go and take them to a room and say to them, look, you said you knew Scrum. All right. You got 7 minutes. Here's a dry erase marker. I need you to teach me Scrum. And I sit back and let them teach me, right? I've literally had that happen. I've literally done that in an interview. Literally, right? Teach me Scrum. Teach me what's in Kanban. Tell me all about the Agile Manifesto. I literally will have you train that to me. Certified Scrum trainer, right? Somebody that more than likely got more experience than you, right? What am I expecting to see, especially if I ask you questions about Scrum, right? You have to be super duper clear on what a Scrum Master's duties are per the Scrum Guide. Per the Scrum Guide. And this is really, really important, right? Because I'm up to date on the latest and greatest when it comes to the Scrum Guide, right? So I need to understand the events. You might call them ceremonies, rituals. You don't call them events, you're a little suspect to me, right? I need to understand how you go about protecting teams. I need to understand the roles, what they kind of do, the artifacts, what they're all about. I want to understand Agile principles, right? But here's things that I really do want to see if you know. I want you to know if the Scrum Master is supposed to be at the Daily Scrum. Changed in 2020? You know the answer to that. Do you know? I don't know if you know the answer to that, right? But you would know if you kept up to date to what's the latest and greatest stuff happening within the Scrum community, right? I would want you to know, I want to know about commitments and what they are, right? If you have no clue what commitments are, then you're going to be suspect to me. You're going to immediately be suspect to me. That's going to take you down a couple notches. Does that make sense? And so being super duper tight on the roles is an absolute must, because I got to go beyond that. Well, I got to make sure you know the basics, and we can deviate away from the basics. We can all agree that there's no company that does perfect Scrum exactly the way it's designed to do. But I want you to know perfect Scrum so we can change and know what we're changing. Does that make sense? Know what we're changing. And that's really extremely important. So make sure you clearly understand the roles, the responsibility of the roles, because I need you to go well beyond the basics. But I need to know that you know the basics starting out on the rip, okay? So make sure that before you walk in, number 2, make sure before you walk into any interview that you really sit down and make sure you're familiar with the Agile Manifesto, its 12 principles, the Scrum framework, Kanban, extreme programming. Let me repeat that so you understand. Make sure, the second thing here, make sure you take time, you sit down, take time, revisit the Agile Manifesto, its values and its principles. Make sure you do those two things, right? And then make sure you revisit that Scrum framework, okay? Make sure you understand Kanban. Scrumban, Kanban, combination of the two. How does that kind of work? You know, the things that you could measure within Kanban would be nice to know. What are the primary principles, core principles of Kanban? What do you need to have? What don't you have? What's the difference between it and Scrum, right? I need you to understand extreme programming. The reason why I need you to understand XP is because the foundation of DevOps, DevSecOps, whatever you want to call it, right, these days, is extreme programming. So you understanding the practices that evolve from extreme programming to become things that we naturally look at in building a DevOps culture are things that I want to be able to visit with you. I absolutely want to be able to visit with you on these things. This is extremely important. It is beyond extremely important. And you have to really just kind of make sure you visit that stuff so you understand and you clearly know. Now, number 3, okay? You may have this, you may not, but it's really important for you to reflect on your experiences. That's number 3. Make sure you take time to reflect on your experiences. Here's the deal. I do not care if they're Scrum specific experiences. Do you understand? Let me repeat that to you one more time. I do not care all the time. If you say you have experience with Scrum, then I care that these things are aligned to some of the things you've done within your experiences in Agile and Scrum and Kanban and Stream Programming. I would expect that then. But if you said you had no experience, regardless, between each one of those situations, I'm looking for times that you resolve conflicts between people, between team members. I'm looking for that. I'm looking to see if you know how to negotiate. Does that make sense? I'm looking to understand how you handle changing requirements. Now, if you have Scrum experience, you deal with that with a product owner. I mean, if you don't have Scrum experience, requirements have changed at some point in your life for something. Does that make sense? Requirements have changed at some point in your life for something. So literally, I'm looking to see how you handled that, right? I'm looking to see how you coached a team that's new to Scrum. If you have never had any Scrum experience, I'm looking at how you coach any kind of a team. How you help a team move from being brand new to being experienced in some kind of way. That's what I'm looking for sure. I also want something really, really unique. I also want something really, really, really unique. And that thing that I want is to understand when you had somebody that resisted, that was like, hey, man, I'm not interested in any of this stuff at all. What the heck did you do? How did you handle that situation? Because one thing that's constant about change, period, and as a Scrum Master, we would agree that you're a change agent, right? So one of the constants about change is, guess what? Somebody resisting. We always get resistance when it comes to change. There is no question about that. That's just the way it kind of works, okay? So if you've never had any resistance when it comes to change, bah humbug. Bah humbug. You haven't done anything to me. And again, whether you had experience as a Scrum Master or not, you should have had somebody who resisted some kind of change. Because if nobody's ever resisted change with you, have you ever really helped to establish any change? Here's something. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Number 4, not a complicated thing. I don't know how you go into an interview and don't understand the company. You understand? In today's world, it's so much more important that you customize your resume, for example, right? And then you're customizing your resume to that job rec. Does that make sense? You customize it to that. But you also need to research that company specifically, especially if you got an interview. If you got an interview, man, you'd have made it through the applicant tracking system. So now it's time for you to make sure you understand the landscape, understand the company, read things about the company, right? You want to do these things for many, many reasons, right? But here's some, right? Is the company brand new? It's doing Scrum. Is it a really big company, a really small company? Do you have have they been known to been doing Agile for a period of time or for a while? I know that if I go to, a company like Capital One, they've been doing Scrum since like '06, man. Other companies probably not. But Capital One, yeah, '06, man. They've been doing this for a while, right? They may not be perfect at it, but they have been doing it. It's been in the culture for a while. So I want to know things like that. I want to know what type of industry that they're in. Because the type of industry they're in could point to me some of the conflicts that they naturally would have, in terms of trying to adopt Scrum. It is very different trying to adopt Scrum for a startup than it's for a company that's more than 20, 30 years old. It's very different. So imagine going into Amazon versus going into one of the railroad companies, right? Going into a railroad company is different. Just say Wells Fargo, right? They've been around a long time, right? They even got a stagecoach on the thing, right? So you take Wells Fargo. The culture is a little bit different than what is going to be at an Amazon because they got decades of culture in them. I want to understand that because that may give me some hints into some of the challenges that they have. Just really that simple. Let's see. I probably won't be able to find this out, but I may do some other research in terms of their jobs. Because if I know if the job is within information technology, I might want to do some research into the type of people that they're hiring, right? Especially if I know if I'm going to go into IT. And the reason why I say that is because you can learn about languages that they're coding in, the tech stack. You can learn, at least start to think about the direction that they're moving in, especially if they put that information publicly about people that they're hiring, right? That could tell you some information about where you're going, right? So it's really, really important for you to kind of dive in and almost put yourself in a place where you kind of research that company, you learned about that company, you got a good idea of what you're kind of getting into, right? Going back to what I call the true interview part, right? If you talk to anybody who has experience with Scrum, one thing that they're going to do is ask you some behavior questions. They want to give you some scenarios, right? So you're going to have two things, right? And this is going to be 5 and number 6, right? You need to be prepared for behavior questions. And number 6, you need to be prepared for scenario-based questions. And I think both of these things you need to prepare for, both of them, because they're different, right? So like a classic behavior question specifically to you would be, how do you handle team conflict? So if a team is over here, they totally disagree. So perfect example. There's a team here who half of the team thinks that the story point should be a 3, and the other half of the team thinks it should be a 34. How do you handle that conflict? Or how do you handle two lead people on the team just clashing? How do you deal with that, right? How do you handle that, right? Um, Describe a time when you work with a team where things didn't go as planned. How did you deal with that? How did you deal with that with the team? This points toward your behaviors. This points toward what you did, right? You understand? Very specifically. This points toward what you specifically did. Um, how do you motivate somebody who's not engaged? Who's just not engaged in whatever we're doing here? How do you deal with that situation? This is very, very important. Okay? Now, you take that, and those are behavior based questions. You need to be prepared for a list of those kind of things. And normally those things are inwardly focused on you and how you would do things. And, a lot of people's answers would be fairly similar, right? Number six is being prepared for scenario based questions. And scenarios could be long, drawn out scenarios that they give you. People could pass you a piece of paper. People can tell you a bunch of details about a particular scenario. But they're going to present you anybody who has experience. They're going to bring somebody experienced in at some point, first interview, second interview, however they do it, right? And here's the deal. They want to understand in a hypothetical situation, what would you do if you're put in that situation, right? And so in some hypothetical situation, what would you do if you're put in that situation, right? Your team is constantly failing meeting their sprint goal. What would you do? The team, you just introduced to the team, you walk in, you see they have 7 sprints, but they only completed 50% of their stories. What would you do, right? How would you deal with a product owner who just doesn't show up for refinement? Okay? You understand? How would you deal with the manager of the developers showing up to the daily scrum? How would you deal with these situations? I'm only giving you the question of the scenario for the most part, but they can give you a whole paragraph and be explaining to you about all kinds of things. And you have to listen for those key things and make sure that you are totally connected in what they're saying. So, and then you understand the scenario and you talk about, a situation you've had before, or you talk about how you would handle it. That is important because behavior based normally comes first, then scenario, they kind of hit you in, right? So scenario based questions are absolutely critical. It's something that you're going to have to deal with, period. You're not going to be able to get around that, right? Next, probably one of the biggest things that you're going to have to do is talk about your soft skills. Soft skills pay the bills, man. Let me repeat that. You understand? Soft skills pay the bills. Okay? And here's the deal. A Scrum Master is not expected to know how to do the developer's job. But a Scrum Master is supposed to have soft skills that can help everybody move forward. So, communication skills are a huge thing. How do you deal with, what is your communication style, right? How do you deal with different styles of communication? Are you an active listener, right? How do you lead a meeting, right? How do you facilitate a meeting? When you have a group discussion and there needs to be group decisions made, how do you encourage the conversation to continue to happen? When you're in a situation where there's something really interesting happening, tough, for example, how do you provide empathy to make sure you connect with the speaker so that the speaker, feels that you're connected with them and feels that they have that right vibe with you, that right connection with you, so they can give you the information and they don't feel threatened, right? How do you deal with conflicts? How do you resolve conflicts? You need to have those kind of abilities. Your leadership style. We classically think of a Scrum Master as a servant leader, but you're not always a servant leader. I would say you're going to be, somewhere between servant leadership, transformational leadership, and then probably adaptive leadership as well. I think these things will touch you, right? I think you have to touch on all those things. And if you have to touch on all those things, then you're kind of in a place where you need to understand those styles. And you need to be able to switch between those styles as you need. Situational leadership. You need to switch between those styles as you need to, right? And so having those things built in you and finding ways to showcase those things in an interview is gonna, man, it's gonna get you there. It's gonna get you over the finish line, right? So really, really important. My statement clearly is, and this is the reason why I do this, I really believe soft skills pay the bills, right? Soft skills absolutely pay the bills. So that's important, right? Um, Make sure, number 8, right? One thing that you need to remember is as much as they're interviewing you, you should be interviewing them. Here's the deal, man. And here's my philosophy. My philosophy when I was early on was like, you better get me while I'm cheap, right? My philosophy after I did that the first time was I need to be a good fit for you, but you need to be a good fit for me. And so I'm really interested in knowing more about that company and where they're at. So you think about their maturity in terms of Agile. I have gone into organizations and didn't ask any questions, and then I get in there and everything they presented to me wasn't what was in there, wasn't even close. And so you need to ask some insightful questions that demonstrate your understanding of the role, your eagerness related to the role, right? But also you need to explore and understand kind of what they're going through. So where they are in terms of their agile maturity is important for you to understand. Understanding challenges that they are currently facing in terms of their adaptation, transformation, or just kind of them trying to stay, at this maintenance place, right, is important, right? Understanding what kind of expectations they have of the Scrum Master, right? If you're not a technical person and they expect a Scrum Master that knows how to code, then that may not be the right job for you if that's not what you're into, right? And so you want to ask them really insightful questions so and then you're good. I remember I worked for an organization literally where I went in to help them do an agile transformation and they turned me into a sales guy. They turned me into a sales guy. I didn't go in there for sales, right? But they were selling a product that was more expensive than the vendors that they could have bought the product from, and they were building that product internally. And I didn't believe that first. I couldn't believe. I just don't agree with it, right? And then I'm not a salesperson. I didn't go in there to make sales, right? And so it wasn't the right role for me. And so that's another place where I got fired. But that's okay. That's not a problem. It happens. But it only happened because I didn't ask insightful questions. I was just desperate to get another opportunity at that point in time. And so me not asking the right questions meant I ended up getting fired because I just wasn't the right guy for it at the end of the day. Another thing I'm going to say to you is practice, practice, practice. If you can find a way to do some mock interviews, that's going to help you. Find a friend. If you have a mentor, I there may be some service, there may be somebody you can pay, right? To be able to do it, some nominal money to pay to practice interview skills is important, right? You want to find the main reason why you want to interview, practice interviewing, is because it's just going to make you better. It's kind of like you're building a muscle memory, right? You don't want to be static when you walk into a place like, you got this coined answer, right? But you want to be in a place where the questions don't throw you off, where you're comfortable enough to, give them a real good, true answer that kind of comes from your heart that demonstrates who you are. The more they can see who you are, probably the better they can see whether you fit into their organization. So if you can get past the jitters of the actual interview by practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing, even if you sat up there and you had canned questions for yourself and you recorded yourself, right? So you can see your mannerisms. Like if it's me, I would get a friend who I can be on an online video, right? On Zoom, right? On FaceTime, but I would record it. So then I can see what my answers were and critique myself, right? So don't just do a mock interview, do a mock interview and record it, okay? That means you will have it as a record for yourself and you'll understand where you kind of stuttered, what you need to tweak, what you need to build. If that answer wasn't quite right, what I need to study, what I need to prepare for. I'm running out of time, y'all. I'm not running out of time. We can do this longer. So, is it okay? Hey, look, I'm sorry. I haven't said anything to y'all, right? Look, drop in the chat if it's okay for me to give you 2 more items, right? Drop in the comments, right? If it's okay for me to give you a couple more items, right? Because these are important. But I'm going way past the expected time. But that's okay. We'll keep going, y'all. We'll keep going. No, no. Hopefully you like at least one of these things, right? That was number 9. Let's go with number 10. Number 10 is make sure that you are learning. Just make sure you're learning, man. For real. Make sure you're learning. Make sure you keep that learning going, right? I always tell people in class I read a book a month. And it's true. I really do read a book a month. Once I got into the PhD program, it turned into more than a book a month. It's not really a book, it's lots of articles, journals, just really, academic papers is what I'm reading more now, which is very helpful. It's been extremely helpful for me because I've gained a lot of great knowledge. But the idea is that I haven't stopped that journey on learning. Whether it's books, it's workshops, it's seminars in your various Agile communities. This is a way for you to show commitment to us in the Agile world, right? Is by continuing to consume this information. When you consume this information, man, you're gonna be able to get in some nice debates, man. It's gonna be some nice debates that you're gonna be able to get into. And these debates sometimes that nice little philosophical place where you can go with your colleagues is how this thing grows. Is how we get better at our craft, right? Because another agilist can expose a weak point that you have and an argument that you have, and then you can bring that to a client, and then you got that covered now. Okay, so just make sure you can continuously learn, and learning doesn't always have to be a book. Learning can be from colleagues, right? From peers, and I definitely say learn from peers as much as you can. Last but not least is something that's extremely important, right? And that last thing is, man, have some enthusiasm about it, man. I mean, show that you're excited about being like in this role of the Scrum Master. Like it's like your thing, man. You need to just show some level. You need to get past the jitters. That's the reason why I say practice with mock interviews, right? Because you need to get past the jitters and you need to dig down deep and show your excitement. Do you understand? I mean, do you know how excited I am just to come here every single week to actually have this exchange with you? I mean, I'm always excited. And here's the deal. You see this right here? I get to do this all day, every day. And the reason why I do is from the very beginning, I've been excited about this thing called Scrum. I always have been excited about this thing called Scrum. Matter of fact, this little thing called Scrum has taken a little black kid from the south side of Chicago, taking him around the world, and I've become the first black certified Scrum trainer. That's what my enthusiasm is about. I don't care if I'm suited and booted. I'm going to always show my enthusiasm about this thing that I love to do all day, every day. All day, every day. And I find that people who are older than me in the game, when I bring them my enthusiasm and all my energy, they be like, I need to teach him something. I need to teach that young fella something. You understand? When people come to me with enthusiasm, when people come to me and they bring that, it make me want to help them, man. It make me want to say, yeah, here, slow your roll, young person. Let me help you out a little bit. You understand? So for me, that enthusiasm is extremely important, right? Let me ask y'all a question, right? I gave y'all 11 different things, right? I want you to drop in the comments. Tell me what's the top thing. What is the top thing that you think should be done as a part of an interview? What if it wasn't on my list? Drop it. What did I miss? Drop it in the comments for me, right? Because I'm not perfect at this. Help everybody else out. What is the top thing that I said? And if I missed something, let me know that thing I missed, okay? Drop it in the comments for me. While you drop it in the comments, let me go backwards, right? Let me go backwards and make sure we're good. Number 11, enthusiasm. I'm a bruh. Enthusiasm is just a part of what you got to do. It just is what it is, right? The more enthusiastic you are about it, the better it is. Here's the perfect reason why I say that, right? I had an internship at Disney after my freshman year of college, right? And one thing that's true is everybody was excited about Disney. So whenever I would bring up my enthusiasm about Disney in interviews, it would derail the whole interview, and we would just start talking about Disney. I normally knew I had the job at that point, right? Literally. Because they'd have a few questions, I'd be enthused, excited, right? So my enthusiasm would derail the interview, but that meant that they got really close to me and connected to me, and then I was good to go. So anyway, enthusiasm is extremely important, right? Number 10. Make sure you emphasize you make sure you continuously learn. And remember, learning is not just about books. You can learn from peers, right? When you're in these workshops, these seminars, the conferences, from the Agile community in general, if you go to a LinkedIn group, Yahoo group, or something like that, you can learn from a lot of people, right? Just think about it. Look in the comments. Look in the comments, right? Look in the comments right now. Look in the comments. You can learn from people right now, okay? Number 9, make sure that you practice. Do some mock interviews, man. Do some mock interviews, record those mock interviews. Let me repeat that. Do mock interviews and record them. It's extremely important that you record them and you review them and you give yourself some tips. You see what was wrong. You see what your mannerisms are. You see how many times you go, You just want to make sure you double check all those things, right? You want to understand where your hands are, right? Some people are more threatened about all these hand movements. Other people love it, right? You want to know what you're bringing to the table, how to bring it to the table so you're good to go, right? Then you take it a little bit further than that, right? You want to ask insightful questions. You want to make sure you interview the company, interview them, right? You might be at that company 6 months. You might be at that company for 5 years. Interview them. Make sure it's the right fit for you. Um, Whenever it wasn't the right fit for me, I ended up getting fired. That's just truth, right? So just be careful about that. I said to you earlier, soft skills pay the bills. Soft skills pay the bills. I believe that's true. The more soft skills you have, the more you're able to navigate certain situations, the better your life is going to be. Make sure you deal with those scenario-based questions. That'd be number 6. Scenario-based questions, a lot of times it's a hypothetical situation, and how you're going to deal with it. Make sure you deal with those basic behavior-based questions. Those questions are really a lot more focused on you, right? And what you think about something and how you would handle something, right? Make sure you learn about the company and learn about the company. Trust me, it's going to help you to create insightful questions. So that'll be a plus. Make sure you reflect on your experiences. And again, your experiences don't have to be Scrum experiences, right? How did you resolve a conflict? How did you help negotiate something? How did you get a roadblock, an impediment out of the way, right? Those things are things that you naturally do in all parts of your life. So just make sure that you bring those things to the forefront. Make sure that you understand not just Scrum, Agile, the values and principles, understand some Kanban, understand some extreme programming. Especially if you're going to be dealing in IT, you need to understand those things just because it's important for you to understand them. And then make sure that you understand the role. You clearly understand the role in terms of the Scrum Master role in particular. That's my list, y'all. That's my list. Okay. We just went through, I think, 11 different things. I'm just going to say 10 because I don't want to count enthusiasm. Well, we'll count enthusiasm. So we went through 11 different things, tips, strategies for you in terms of you preparing for an interview, right? And they are all really, really important. Before I go through some of the comments, I want to make sure that I bring something to the forefront for you next week. Next week, I already know what the topic is going to be next week, and I want to make sure I show this to you. Next week, we are specifically going to be talking about max your money as a Scrum Master. This month of August has been a series about, turning that Scrum Master job into the dream job. And so next week we will be talking about maxing your money as a Scrum Master. So come prepared for that. Let me go ahead and check out the comments real quick. Let's see. I see some of the things that were said. Um, it's okay. Mock interviews being one of the top things. Mock interviews, situation awareness, right? Those scenarios, I think those are great. Learning from peers, right? Fellow Scrum Masters, especially if you're at work. I see that one's there. Love that one. Absolutely love that one. Dress code. Well, dress code is important. I would agree with that. I was just having a, I was just having a little conversation with my ex-wife and about one of my kids. So that's interesting, right? Know the role. Yeah, know the role is important. So I see Anthony said that. And then let's see. I think we're good to go. I got another comment here. Keep learning. Research the company you're interviewing with. Yeah, man, it's super important for you to interview them. I mean, you got to make sure it's the right fit for you. I don't care how desperate you are for the money. Make sure it's the right fit for you. I see over here, Tracy says soft skills pay the bills. I can't show the LinkedIn comments, but soft skills pay the bills is one of them. I'll go ahead and throw that in the actual chat there on the other side. So soft skills pay the bills. That's important. The art of thank you. Kimberly says the art of thank you. I like that. I like that. Um, Especially after the interview. That's a, like cover letters and saying thank you are things that we don't always do anymore. Like I said, I can't show the LinkedIn ones, but the art of saying thank you, that's an excellent one. After the interview is still very much a thing, right? So send a recap, at least one thing that stood out most, and connect your expertise and your experience, right? That's a good thing. I think that's a really, really good tip, Kimberly. So thank you. Um, let's see. Tracy says build muscle memory. Um, so you can get past the jitters. I think that is really important. That muscle memory actually is extremely helpful. So building that muscle memory, Tracy, I think is absolutely important in terms of what we do. So yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, so it's. I mean, that's our topic for the night, y'all. That's really the topic for the night. Here's the deal. I'm gonna talk about shout outs in just a moment, but here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go ahead and ask you if you have any questions in terms of Scrum and Agile, drop them in the comments now. Just drop them in the comments now, right? If you want to join the show, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to join the show as well. That's important. So you can do that as well. So that will be a good thing. Okay. I just dropped the link in the chat for that. I will say to you once again, if you enjoyed this show, this is kind of what we're doing. Next week, we're going to be talking about maximizing your money as the Scrum Master. You enjoyed this show. You should be liking this. You should be subscribing to this. And you should be clicking that notification bell, right? Because when I go off, I'm going to be dropping a couple videos for you, right? So make sure you do those things, okay? It helps the channel out. It helps us kind of move forward. So I didn't give any shout outs. Let me go ahead and give some shout outs. Um, and I'm gonna start off on LinkedIn. I can't pull you over to the other side. So hey Judith, how you doing? Yvonne, how's it going? Tracy, how are you? Cristiano, how you doing? Salome, how you doing? Salome, maybe saying your name wrong. Fabian, how you doing? Kimberly, how's it going? And then my folks here on LinkedIn, Evelyn, how's it going? Rajiv, what's up? Monique, hey, welcome, Monique. First time tuning in. Let me give you the nice welcome. Let's see. Anthony, how's it going? How are you? Andrea, how's it going? Okay. How you doing there? Miss Hancock, how's it be? Shane, what's going on? And then OBA Luxury Fabrics. Welcome. Let's see. I think I got everybody here that said hi. So if you didn't say hi again. We're good to go. So, what questions do you all have? This has been an interesting topic. None but love. Nothing but love. I actually love this topic. These topics are things I want to get out there because I want to make sure you all are good. I want to make sure you all are tight. I want to make sure you all, are the best you can be when it comes down to this stuff here, right? Are the absolute best you can be, right? My live on LinkedIn may be gone. It is not showing up live anymore. Not much I can do about that. But let me make sure I didn't get rid of my live. Okay, my live is still here. I'm like, did I get rid of it or something? You know? Let me see. I got a question here. And maybe one day we can do this. We probably won't do it next week. But the question from Yvonne was this. Um, can you do a live teaching us how to answer behavior and scenario questions? I have no problem with that. In order to be able to do that well, though, it'd be great for maybe even the community to come up with some questions. So if the community came up with some questions, we can dedicate an entire show to how to answer some of those questions. And maybe I'll bring somebody else on that can, give you a couple different flavors of that, right? So yeah, I will put it down on my list of possible things. How to deal with scenario and behavior based questions, uh, in terms of show topic. So yeah, I'll put it on the list. Okay. Okay. So I think that's a good situation. It won't be immediate because next week we're talking about something different. Let me see what other questions do I see here. Yes, you dropped two more. Okay. Let's see. This is good. Thank you for this. It's my first two. Well, Andrea, let me give you the shout out there. Welcome, 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 welcome to the show. Welcome. It's always good to see first timers. If it's your first time here, hey, let me know, and I'll make sure you get the horns too. Right? Everybody gets the horns. That's brand new. So that being said, let me look and see any questions from the other side. Let's see. I don't see. Learn from peers. Da da da. We talked about that, and I did my intros to everybody. All right, everybody, tell me what's going on. Did I hit you with too much there? I apologize if I did. Well, I'm not sorry at all. I think that was needed. I think that was important. Um, if I was to go to that list of items literally and say to you probably which ones are most important, mm, you know. Probably if I was brand new, probably the one that would be most important to me would probably be mock interviews and recording. Because with mock interviews, I would have to learn. I would have to learn and deal with several things on this list. So I would have to deal with behavior based questions, scenario based questions. I'd have to make sure I know the Scrum framework. I'd have to make sure I understand the role. I have to understand the Kanban, extreme programming, those kind of things. I'd have to make sure that my answers reflect my experiences. Soft skills are a little bit harder to show, um, but I would be looking for how I actively listen, in terms of soft skills. I won't say that I'm going to be recording insightful questions, but I can see myself doing that. But I would say that, just in the mock interviewing stuff, you wind up putting yourself in a position where you would need to incorporate like five other things, in order to get really good at the mock interview, right? So for me, mock interviews would be the top of the list for me, because that would help me out with the other things. And again, as I will say to you again, you need to record it. You need to record it, review it, get better at it, find your weak points, shore up those weak points, right? So it's almost like you record it so you can study. Then you study yourself, right? Keep studying yourself till you get absolutely perfect at it, and then you'll be good to go. Let's see. All right, got a question here. How you doing, Shane? How would you handle two high level managers having not being aligned or seeing eye to eye on a project? Well, me, I would well, here's the deal. There's a lot of things to deal with in a scenario like that. So let's deal with the first couple things, right? The first thing is organization, politics, hierarchy, stuff like that, right? The first statement is who is accountable? Is either one of these high level managers overall accountable? Okay, that's the first thing. If they're overall accountable, they're probably going to have a heavier say in whatever's happening, right? So I check for the first thing, organization politics. So at least I understand the landscape of that, right? And understanding the landscape of that, the next thing that I'm going to try to do is get them to collectively come to some type of agreement through the use of data. I want to use data as an agnostic, way to help them collectively make a decision, even if the decision, is only based on the data that we know at the time. That's what I want to happen for them. And so I want to kind of get them to a place where they can see the same picture, right? And see how we can align, even if they're not in full agreement, right? We just got to agree to collectively go in a direction. Sometimes in terms of resolutions don't always end up being a win-win-win situation. Some resolutions end up being somebody, somebody actually loss, right? And so I try to figure out the best way that I can resolve it. I probably go have some conversations with other people that may have experienced these two people and their problems to get some advice on how we should handle it. And then I would take all these things, kind of put them together, and figure out the best path moving forward. The best path without really truly offending any one of them. If they naturally get offended by everything, I can't help that. But I always find that me going to have conversations with them. Sometimes I need to have separate conversations before I bring them together, so and then I can see their perspectives and can honor both their perspectives in a way that represents them, even when I'm facilitating a meeting. Sometimes I need to do some of that stuff. But if you do those things, I think it would be very helpful, Shane. I think it would be extremely helpful. A lot of times, the issue between them could very well be something that happened long before you were around. And that could be part of what the issue is. And getting past that is almost impossible. So you got to hopefully find a data way, a data driven way, a way that is agnostic of people's personal opinions and get them to agree on a path. Um, but first and foremost, whoever has the accountability is going to get more say into that, right? Because organizations do typically have hierarchies. They could be managing some people on my team. We may put them in a position where neither one of them get to make the decision, and somebody else makes the decision, right? And whatever that decision is, what that decision is going to be. So I think there's ways to solve that. It's not just one way to think about it, but you got to think holistically on this because this is likely an organization, and inside of an organization, there's just all these politics, the culture, the current climate that exists in the company at that time. Those things will help you to be able to make the best decision. Just don't go at it alone. If there's other Scrum Masters in the house, if there's other people that have experienced this problem, have little conversations with them about it, and see how they handled it. And how they handled it could give you some hints on how you can handle it. Take that, don't take it as the answer. It could be the answer, but incorporate that data, and then once you get that data, then make a decision about what's the best path to take. You can make that decision with other people, right? Get their opinion, bring their opinion to the table, see what they think, and then utilize part of what they think as a way for you to kind of move forward. So realistically, I say just step back, assess the entire situation with a lot of things that I just said, and I think you will wind up coming out with the best answer that you can at that time. And even if it's the wrong answer, it's the answer that we have agreed upon. And as a team, we move forward in the direction that we agree upon, even when everybody's not in agreement, right? Sometimes we're forced to move in a direction because that's where people want us to go, but that just is part of what it is. So you're welcome, Shane. No problem. And I'm glad you love the answer. I felt it may have been a lot, right? But that's in terms of being inside of organizations, that's a big part of it. Period. Right. Let's see. And I think our final question is going to be one that is happening on LinkedIn right now. And I may have just messed it up. Let me see if I get it right. Okay. I'm grabbing that question right now. I'm going to drop it so we can all see it. So just give me just a second. Let me copy this. I'm gonna try to answer this question real quick since we only got a few minutes, and sometimes I can be long-winded. This question is from Cheyenne, Miss Abbott, ACSM. Okay, ACSM. How does a Scrum Master coach a product owner who wants to delegate their tasks to the very small team to share the workload, even though each person on the team has their own workload. Um, Probably for me, that's a product owner that's not engaged. Okay. So you may not be able to do anything about it. So that's the first thing. And you need to be comfortable with the fact that you may not be able to do anything about it. But if they keep delegating their stuff downward, they're involved to some degree. Now, if it's me, I would try to focus in on something that's really, really important. And this is where I think you need to train and coach the product owner. And when I say train and coach them, here's what I mean. The one thing that the developers classically don't have insight into is return on investment. Return on investment happens in every epic, in every single story. And so your developers likely can't position things in terms of return on investment. So that's definitely who has the closest relationship to the users. And that's more than likely going to be the product owner. The product owner has the right connections to those people. So I would drive the conversation toward return on investment. Now, there could be a problem here, right? And I have to ask you this, and this is a rhetorical question, but you know what I'm talking about. When you have your user stories, are your user stories more technical or are they really about the what? So they can either be about the how or about the what. And Cheyenne, if your user stories are about the how, then your product owner is in a position where they have no choice but to delegate. I've seen many situations where the product owner has to delegate because they're not technical. So, how are you writing user stories? If your user stories are technical in nature and the product owner can't do anything else but pass them down for them to be split or whatever it's going to be, a lot of times I see it even to this day because of the way the organization is structured, because of how the teams are structured. Teams are writing not user stories, but they have basically activities and tasks or subtasks, whatever you want to call it, right? And those are just ways of getting the job done or getting the requirement done. If it's those kind of things, your product owner has no choice but to pass down to other people. So when you think about it, let's put that last thing to the side. Let's assume that the product owner, right, is in a situation where they're not doing that. And then okay. And if it's from and I she just said to me it's from the what, then what I would be talking to the product owner about, and she just gave me an answer here on my question. Our developers need a story from the end user persona. Great. So then what I would talk to the product owner about and what I would teach them about is return on investment. And I would teach them about how to get the maximum return on investment based on how they start splitting the stories. And so I'd worked with the product owner on splitting the stories in a way that maximizes return on investment because we always assume that we're not going to get everything done. And then I try to get into the place and figure out why is it that they really want to delegate everything to the actual developers. It could be that they simply don't have time. If they don't have time or whatever impediment they come up with, then I'll be finding ways to deal with that impediment with management, with the powers that be to get them more time. So I think if you go off in those directions, like, okay, let's figure out what the impediment is. Okay. I don't assume that they're just being bad, like they're just a negative actor. I don't assume that starting off, right? They could be a negative actor, but let's not assume that, right? But I try to deal with the impediment. And if the impediment isn't there and they're being a bad actor, different problem. But if they're really trying and they want to do something, then I work with them on return on investment, understanding how to split stories in a way that's going to maximize return on investment, then I would just kind of go from there. I'm not sure if that's helpful because we're probably running out of time now. But if you have further questions about that, Cheyenne, just shoot me a shoot me a message on LinkedIn, right? Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. And it can be something we bring up next week for sure, or that I talk to you about, through LinkedIn. So just shoot me a message on LinkedIn if that doesn't help you enough, because I probably need to know more. That's a good question to join the show with, right? Because the exchange is important in that kind of question. But on that note, Cheyenne, hopefully that was helpful. And it was helpful for Shane. It looks like we've had a good show today. Definitely looks like we had a good show. I appreciate everybody that's shown up today, right? We've had a nice crowd today. Once again, just to remind you, next week, oh, there you go. Cheyenne says thank you and gave me a bunch of claps like this. So that's a good thing. So that was helpful. Do me a favor. Again, if you like this content, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you click that notification button because that's how we're going to grow. And next week, look, y'all, I need y'all to spread the news on this one, right? I need you to spread the news on this one, right? We're talking about maxing your money as a Scrum Master. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to max your money as a Scrum Master. And it got everything to do with you being prepared, and how the hell do you get prepared, right? So, next week, next Monday, 8 p.m., this is how it's going down. I need you to be here. I need you to be ready to go with that conversation. I need you to bring that enthusiasm, y'all. So, look, I always appreciate you all showing up for me. We showed up, we showed out on this one. We're going to keep doing this. I love being here. I love that y'all show up, and we are definitely building a nice, solid community here. Let people know about this, let people know to join us. But on that note, hey, y'all, this was amazing. You all make sure that you have the most amazing week. Make sure you do some great things for some people that need some things, that need some greatness from you. Bring it to them, right? Make sure you help people who need that help, right? Because that's what this community is all about. We love doing what we love to do, and we love helping people do it. Oh, one thing I didn't mention that I do need to mention. Um, so I have changed the Bankable You event. October 26th, 27th, and 28th is when the event is happening. The Bankable Breakthrough. That is going to be about turning your passion into profit. It's going to be a 3-day event, turning your passion into profit. There's a lot of people who kind of want to. Oh,
Mm.
I pressed the wrong button, y'all. I pressed the wrong button. A lot of people want to see how I did and how we've created this company that's done very, very well. So on that note, you hear more about that next week. But I'm going to say to you all, this has been amazing. I will see you on the Agile journey. It's all coming down, y'all. Hey, enjoy your week. I'll see you next time. Peace. Have a good one.